Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with MacArthur lands in Hollandia? We're now on to the infantry moves ahead on Hollandia. April 22nd, 1944. Our troops advance. By passing the Japanese strongholds of Wewick and Madong, U.S. Army troops transported and aided by planes and ships of a vast U.S. Navy task force leapfrogged 500 miles in the South Pacific to land in the Hollandia area of Dutch New Guinea on April 22nd, 1944. The action marked the first major juncture of the Nimitz-MacArthur forces and was the debut of the Pacific Fleet in the South Pacific waters. The ripples being felt as far west as Tokyo. The town of Hollandia, a coastal town which had been a pre-war population of several hundred natives and a few white persons, was so unimportant that ships called there only once a month during peacetime. After taking it over, the Japanese had turned it into an air outpost guarding their 3,000 miles of conquest in the Netherlands Indies. The American amphibious expedition, which descended on Hollandia, was the strongest yet employed in the Southwest Pacific Theater. American forces were prepared to encounter thousands of Japanese defenders, but the landing proved to be an anticlimax. The beaches were strewn with enemy supplies, piles of rice, crates of food, full of gasoline drums, even airplane engines, but no Japanese. Farther inland, there were a few enemy machine gun nests, which were quickly overcome by our infantrymen, who were shown moving forward in parade formation, many with their guns slung on their shoulder. Yeah, we can see the men just kind of moving up. So what you can kind of surmise from that is that the Japanese were not expecting this. Not even a little bit. They were expecting, we're going to fight island to island to island. But when you leapfrog over them, they didn't seem to even think of that as a possibility. And it kind of shows a shortcoming in their thinking. Because they thought, they're going to have to, come this way. But then they didn't. So, it's a little interesting that. The men of MacArthur push ahead on Hollandia. April 23rd, 1944. Infantrymen move up on New Guinea. Filtering through the marshes and pouring on towards Hollandia airstrip, these men of an infantry regiment have just come ashore from invasion barges. Within a few days, all enemy resistance in the area ended and the retreating Japanese troops were being cut down by heavy air attack. You can see the troops moving up. And the enemy, the Japanese never really stood a huge chance. They will have many instances of holding against the Americans, but truthfully, they didn't really stand as much of a chance in this long war. They just didn't have the troops, supplies, anything. They needed more than they had, and that's kind of why they started this war, so they could have more of that. But in the end, it doesn't really lead them to what they wanted, but instead to ruin. Mortar fire sears Italian might. April 1944. Shadow of battle. Weird patterns of brilliance break the defense blackness of the Italian night as Canadian mortar experts lay down a concentration of fire. Allied commandos in action during this period destroyed newly constructed coastal fortifications along the Italian Riviera. During the lull in ground operations on both sectors of the 5th and 8th Army fronts, the mortar gun easily transported, was one of the favorite weapons of the fast-moving commandos. So yeah, mortar guns, yeah, if they are light, easy, it's going to be good for commandos because they can get in, fire a bunch of artillery, and be out before the enemy can have a real defensive attack against this. The enemy won't even be there and they'll be somewhere else. And so you're hitting these enemies that are moving quickly. It gives these commandos a lot more ability to be more destructive to the enemy. Back from a raid on Truk. April 30th, 1944. Stronghold raided again. The last 2 days of April brought bad news to the Japanese occupants of Truk as an American task force visited the base, wiped out all but one of the defending planes, and devoted a second day to smashing the ground installations. In this picture, the turret gunner of a carrier-based torpedo bomber inspects the hole in the tail of his plane made by anti-aircraft. So you can see the hole right there. This guy's probably like, I am one lucky guy. Because, yeah, you can see the damage there. If it would have hit anywhere else, there's a good chance he could have been really SOL. Ooh, that's not good. Target for any day. May 1st, 1944. Appropriate bait. In the picture of the top, 2 British soldiers are shown as they peer from a window of a building in Casino, where they hung a cartoon of Adolf Hitler in an effort to draw fire so that the enemy would reveal his position. In the picture below, British snipers in a farmhouse on the outskirts of Camarillo near Salerno send their bullets winging toward the foe during an attack on the enemy holding the heights on each side of the defile north of Vitry. So yeah, obviously they're going to have that and be like, oh, see, look, shoot at us. See, look, we're making fun of the Fuhrer. Not a bad strategy. It's worked before. We just have to hope the enemy's dumb enough to actually do that. And yeah, snipers play a big part in this war on all the fronts because a sniper group is easy. You got a spotter and a sniper, and that's really about it. And so they can be disruptive to a whole brigade because, well, you don't want to move your whole, well, not just your brigade, but your whole force up because if the sniper starts picking you off, he could pick you almost all off. But you know, if you can't find him because he's far away, you're going to have trouble. So snipers are very much used in both defense and offense. Crossroads of Conquest. May 2nd, 1944. Rebuilding Kwalejin. An aerial oblique of newly conquered Kwalejin Island in the heart of the Marshall's Group reveals how the tremendous U.S. Navy task force, part of which can be seen anchored offshore, is rebuilding the shell-shattered base. Rows of tent houses, Seabees, whose laborious and skillful effort have already partly erased the pockmarks of war on this atoll. On Kwalejin, oh man, as on other conquered Pacific Isles, the Seabees accomplished wonders. So yeah, you can see all the tents. And yeah, the American engineers, military engineers, they did crazy things in this war. The fact that they built some of this so fast back up in such a short amount of time, a few months maybe, is just a feat of engineering, really. Spies and wounded on the Chinese front. May 1st, 1944. 2 sides of war. In the picture at top, a civilian suspected of giving aid and information to the Japanese in the Swollen River sector is questioned by a Chinese colonel at division headquarters. So yeah, obviously they're going to do that because the civilian would be seen probably as a, not probably, but as a traitor But there's always two sides of this story. You know, the civilian could have been pressured into giving that aid. So, gotta give him a fair shake. And then below, a wounded Chinese soldier is being carried across the Saline River for medical treatment by American medical officers of the Y Force, attached to the Chinese Expeditionary Forces headquarters. Yeah, so they're going to send him, get him patched up. At this time, the Americans or British or any of the Western powers would have better medical treatment. Japan probably could too, but obviously the Chinese aren't going to take them to Japan. But because China is kind of a backwater country at this point, it will soon rapidly industrialize and be a world superpower. Well, not really superpower, but a world power. But as of this time, they don't really got both feet on the ground. They've got one kind of on the ground, and then they're getting ready to move that other one on. Invasion portents. May 1944. D-Day draws near. As the month of May opened, signs increased that the great invasion of the continent was not far off. The Allied air offensive was devoted almost exclusively to tactical targets. This is the type of bombing which precedes the assault by not too long a span of time. The picture below is a good example of the bombing of a railroad bridge in northern France. So you can see here, northern France, railroad bridge, bomb it so the troops can't get up to the front as quickly as you would need them to, like the Germans if they're defending. The Germans were making all manner of frantic preparations, shifting troops to the Atlantic Wall and trying to quiet the Nazi frenzy at home. Finally, hundreds of thousands of Allied troops were on alert in England, and as shown in the picture above, where an American adds a touch of GI humor to the invasion bonnets of an infantry unit. They were still able to relax and see the humorous side of the war before pushing off for the shores of France. You can see Archie, Maine, Junior, Miami. So having a little bit of fun. I mean, they're military guys. A lot of them kind of have a little bit of a dark sense of humor. But, yeah. So D-Day's coming. It's coming fast, and the Germans are not going to be prepared for it like they would kind of hope they should be. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I could improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.